Hello, Cortex Vortex listeners, and welcome back to The Vortex, where we learn how neuroscience can help us better understand ourselves, the people around us better, and help us use our brains for us. I'm Anya, and for this episode of The Vortex, we will be submerging ourselves in the natural world around us to get a better understanding of how being in nature can not only help our health and our wellness, but can also help us understand our humanity better. I'm here with Professor Fey Parrill, who is a professor in the Cognitive Science Department at Case Western Reserve University's College for Arts and Sciences. She has expertise in climate cognition, embodied cognition, and teaching and learning. So without further ado, let's step into the vortex. So Professor Parrill, you focus on embodied cognition. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So embodied cognition is the understanding that the way we think, cognition, is really created by using our bodies to interact with the world and with each other. So embodied cognition understands the mind as being connected to the body and to the physical and social worlds. And there have always been people who understood that, but cognitive science, psychology, neuroscience, philosophy went through a moment where they thought of the brain as just being completely separated from everything else. It could almost exist in a vat. But all sorts of evidence started showing up saying this is really not how human beings think. And, why would it be? Like, why would our thinking be separate from our bodies? And that goes back to Cartesian dualism and all sorts of philosophical theories that hopefully your listeners are familiar with.
Yeah. So when you talk about decisions, for example, when you're making a decision, I feel like a lot of people just think intellectually, how am I going to make this decision? But so parts of the body come into it, you're saying?
That's a great example. Decision making, we actually think about decision making as weight or balance. So if you think about should I take this course or this course? Look at what your body is doing. This course or this course, you're leaning in different directions. And so there's a great study showing that if you put people on a balance board and you kind of tip them literally in one direction or the other, it'll impact their decision making.
Oh, wow. So that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And it's an example of using a sort of experimental methods to test this idea that our cognition is really shaped by our bodies.
Yeah. So if, for example, if I were to start using more gestures in the way I talk, actually thinking my thoughts through my body more, do you think I would have more clarity?
That's a question I get a lot. So your listeners may not know, but one of the things I study is gesture, because gesture is a way of literally seeing embodied cognition.
Yeah.
And basically people naturally gesture. And so if you look around, you'll see when people are talking, they're gesturing up a storm.
Yeah.
They're doing all sorts of cool stuff with their hands. They're spatializing their thoughts. But you don't really want to mess with it. You don't want to try to do things that you wouldn't naturally do.
Okay.
We do know that if you prevent people from gesturing, they have a harder time thinking.
Oh, okay.
So you may have been told, if you're going into a job interview, don't use a lot of body language. And, there's something to that. You don't want to be super crazy, but it actually is going to make it harder for you to articulate your thoughts.
Huh. Okay, so going from kind of embodied cognition to kind of the focus in nature.
Yeah.
I guess how can we learn to see ourselves as part of nature instead of I feel especially in this world we get so caught up in our own day-to-day lives, being in buildings and doing all these things, we forget that nature is where we live. It's not somewhere we go to,
Yeah, it's not, and it's not something we're separate from, it's something we're part of. So all these buildings are nature too.
True.
Nature built by humans, but out of the same materials that we're made of. And I think your question, how do we change that thinking? It's complicated because for many people, it's part of a religious or other belief system. So you don't want to go up to someone and say, well, you're part of nature, if they have strong beliefs that say, actually, my belief system tells me that I am separate from and above nature. So I was raised Catholic, and in Catholicism, which is a variant of Christianity,
Yeah.
You're taught that you are separate from the rest of nature, that God
Oh.
had sort of placed you above the rest of nature. So
Mhm.
to be kind of careful about
How
telling
you
people like you need to think this way,
Yeah.
because a lot of people have strong scientific or religious beliefs that say
Yeah.
that they're different.
That's interesting. I never even thought of it from that lens.
At the same time, a lot of those same scientific and religious belief systems have a lot of space in them for coming back into connection
Mhm.
with nature.
Yeah.
So even in the place that I grew up where people were Catholic, they were still really closely connected to the earth. A lot of them were farmers.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of them have ancestral traditions that go back to the land, collecting plant medicine. So
Yeah.
not necessarily like just because you believe one thing, you can't also be connected to the earth.
Yeah.
A lot of biologists are like deeply connected to the earth.
Mhm.
So yeah.
So I was looking at some of your research, and you touch on like how human to non-human connection can make us feel like more connected. Like I know a lot of people usually think like in connection it's like, oh, I have to go see a friend or I have to
Yeah.
go see a parent or something
Yeah.
like that when we feel really isolated. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So social connection to other people is really great.
Mhm.
Definitely good for our mental, physical, spiritual health. But you can sometimes get the same thing just by connecting to the non-human world. And it usually people already have this experience. They're like, yeah, I go to the ocean and I just feel this transcendent awe
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, where's your happy place?
There's actually like a trail like right around my hometown,
Yeah.
and whenever like I'm really overwhelmed at home or just like when I need a break, I go there and I will just spend 2 hours there. Like it'll start out as a run and I'll end up just
Yeah.
like just being there, being present
Yeah.
is really the best way to put it, you know?
Yeah. And so it's not like this is some radical discovery. People already know this. It's just that
Yeah.
they often don't make space for it in their lives. And what you said about being present is really the crucial piece.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I study attention, which is this cognitive brain system that tells us some things are relevant and some things are irrelevant.
Yeah.
And our culture, this kind of American culture, has told us that a lot of things that are really relevant aren't relevant. Like this, this acorn that I found on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's not relevant. But if you take a moment to really look at it, it's actually quite extraordinary. So just take a second and like really look at it and tell me like kind of what you see.
I mean, it's really intricate.
It is.
And it's kind of crazy that it fell from a tree.
Yeah, like.
And it's such a small thing you wouldn't even think, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we take it for granted. We don't pay attention to it. But if you actually direct your visual attention to it, you see that it has these crazy scales. It's got this intricate patterning on it. And the next thing you do is you start thinking of other things. Like, oh, it reminds me of a pine cone, or it reminds me of a pangolin.
No, yeah.
But if you can stop that process that our brains are designed to do, our brains are these semantic networks. So as soon as you activate one population of neurons, it just spreads across your entire brain. If you can shut that off a little bit and really just keep looking at it, you start to see it more for what it actually is. And for a lot of people, it awakens this sense of awe is maybe a little strong, but for a lot of people, it's like some sense of something like awe, like, whoa, this is cool.
And it's just that.
And it's just that. It's just an acorn. And it sounds sort of radical, but just looking at something and really seeing it for what it is can bring you back into connection with the earth. You're like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But you have to shut off our natural human tendency to like categorize and analyze, explain, and think like, what kind of oak is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally understand that. I feel like in a lot of cases, like, I do want to be more present.
Yeah.
But then I get into the loop of intellectualizing being present. And it's more of like a state of being, right?
Yeah. So there's a relationship between what I was just talking about and what we kind of call mindfulness.
Yeah.
Or presence. And that's a complicated word.
That term's definitely been like watered down and stuff. Yeah.
So it comes from what I would call religious or spiritual traditions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been kind of appropriated the way we like to do and monetized. Like, let's see if we can make money off this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's get people an app on their phone.
Yeah.
But it's also something that that many people have some form of experience with.
Yeah.
So it could be meditation, it could be prayer, it could just be walking around.
Yeah.
And we believe that there's something about that state of mindfulness that is really restorative for our brains.
Mm-hmm. So, like, you were saying in your article how there's, like, when you go into nature, it activates your default mode network and it, like, almost restores that focus energy you have. Like,
Yeah,
focus attention.
that's the theory, is that
Mm-hmm.
it's tapping into this default mode network, which involves a set of brain structures, but it's basically that kind of mind wandering feeling that you get. So
Yeah.
maybe even you're in class and you're zoned out. That's
Yeah.
default mode network.
Yeah.
But also being out in nature seems to activate that network.
So it's like going where your mind's like like
Yeah.
following your mind instead of directing your mind.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems to involve less of what we call directed attention. So directed attention is like when you're really focusing on something.
Takes a lot of energy
It
too.
takes a lot of energy. And when we're out in nature, there seems to be something about the qualities of nature that allow us to relax that directed attention and move into a different mode. It seems to activate the default mode network. And bringing it back to your question about being present, that's what all these like meditative mindful presence practices seem to do as well. That
like
seems to be the
activate your
connection.
default mode network.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also get you better at switching between two networks, the task dependent and the default mode.
Yeah, that's interesting because I feel like sometimes like we get so locked in to something that we don't want to even take a break because we're like, we're not going to be able to get back into it.
Yeah, exactly. And these practices seem to make us better at it, switching back and forth.
Okay, so like practically if you have like an exam or something, you got to do all this studying for it, and you're like, I just can't make time to do anything else.
Yeah.
It might actually be more beneficial for you to take that break because you might be able to like recharge that focus attention when you go back to it.
Yeah, so exactly. A brief walk in a quiet kind of restorative place, which are kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
But there are some on campus.
Yeah.
That can actually be more beneficial than just continuing to study. And so we also know that like a 5-minute nap can be better for you than continuous studying. So there's all sorts of things. Like I'm already thinking about all the other things you could do that will help you better retain the material, better focus compared to just like endless studying. Endless studying is honestly not that great as a strategy.
Yeah, productive.
But yeah, going out for a little walk, even just doing, there's some more recent research that even like a 5-minute mindfulness exercise in nature can have tremendous benefits.
It's really tough because I like have to bring this up, but in our digital age, like I find like even a lot of my friends and stuff, and I just look around me and people when they're like, let's take a break, they're going on their phones.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're scrolling, and it's almost like that makes you more tired, you know?
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. So I have some strong feelings about all of that. I think that this sort of goes back to the monetization angle of it. So I think there are a lot of things in our culture we're doing that are based on a profit model and not based on what's actually good for human beings. And so I think these digital devices that are really designed to capture our attention are part of that whole picture.
Yeah.
So I think they can be quite problematic. When I started here at Case in 2006, when students were walking across campus, they weren't looking at a phone.
Yeah.
They weren't looking at a phone. They probably weren't really paying a lot of attention to what was going on around them, but they weren't looking down. In classes, they would either not talk or they would talk to each other.
Yeah.
So that's been a really interesting thing to observe, that
and it's
transition.
been like fast.
It's been quite fast.
Like I remember even in middle school and stuff, it was more just like communicating with people and just not, but now it's just constant stimulation.
Yes, and ultimately it's a personal choice, right? Like you can put your phone away, but it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
I definitely think that there's some like addictive tendencies and things, and it goes back to that monetization because like so many people, like they benefit off of taking advantage of your attention.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of what we call the attention economy. So this is a phrase that's out there. It's about your attention being the most precious resource in a capitalist system. So
Yeah,
anything
it's
that can
kinda
be done to
true.
keep it is going to be done. So, you have to kind of think about that. As a parent, I definitely have like quite strict screen time
Yeah, definitely. I would
limits
too.
for my kids. The older ones have like a dumb phone with no web browser,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. Just because as a cognitive scientist, I see it happening in front of me. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's not good for you.
yeah, that's a little scary. It's a little, dystopian almost.
It is. And I think if you say that out loud, people are like, you're, like that's kind of extreme or
Yeah.
fringe. But as someone who studies brain, I'm like, I think that I'm probably right about this.
Yeah.
And the evidence is starting to come out as
Yeah.
well. So I remember when you talked about the podcast, you're like, I'm trying to help people sort of optimize their brain.
Mhm.
And I don't know. On the one hand, like, yeah, spending more time in nature is good for you. It's good for your physical health, your social health, your
Yeah.
mental health, your spiritual health. It's good for your community. The more people are outside, the more they
Yeah.
interact with each other.
It's true.
On the other hand, like optimizing the brain, that always takes me back to some kind of like that whole circle
Yeah.
of like monetizing and
Mhm.
self-improvement. It's like, what are your thoughts about that? Like, how do you think about it?
I don't think it so much as optimizing, but I definitely can get into that loop if you think about it that way. But I feel like when I think about it's more just like not taking advantage because I just cannot find the right verbiage
Yeah.
for it, but using our brains to what benefits us most instead of like
Yeah.
almost, I don't want to say wasting, but like putting our attention places that it's really not going to benefit us or not even just us as individuals, but like everyone around us,
Yeah.
and our interactions with people. And like when I started this podcast, it was like part of it was, yes, I want to like studying neuroscience. I was like, our brains are really incredible. Like they are these powerful tools, and I have this inside of me. Like I can, I can do
Yeah.
amazing things with it.
Yeah.
But it's also like I want to better understand people, and it's like a connective thing too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So I was also interested as to see like when we think of ourselves in context with nature, we often might think of ourselves as either saviors of nature or destroyers of nature.
Yeah.
Like, how do we find that in between? Is it just an intellectualization? Like, you just have to understand that you're not, you're part of something?
I think it starts with actually coming back into connection with it.
Mhm.
So
That embodied
as
connection.
as I mentioned, I teach this eco-psychology class, which is really about coming back into connection in whatever way is appropriate for each individual person. So a lot of people haven't touched the earth
Yeah.
in a really long time. Like, when's the last time you remember putting your hand on the dirt?
I can't even remember.
Yeah. And so it can be as simple as that. It can be as simple as putting your hand on the earth and
Yeah.
like feeling it.
Yeah.
And many people are really phobic. They're like, I don't want to touch the dirt.
It's dirty.
It's dirty.
Yeah.
But getting people to actually do it in a sort of present way, like rather than just like
Yeah.
really getting them to do it, or even like
feeling
one
it, really
finger.
feeling it. Yeah.
It can start as simple as that. Then it's about doing exercises where you look at things for a long time. And it brings you back into connection. Thinking about the food you eat. So
Yeah.
food systems are a huge source of connection to
Yeah.
nature. When you think about, are you really separate from nature? Food is a great place to go. So
Yeah.
you can't be separate from it if you're literally taking it in
Consuming
and
it,
putting
yeah.
it back out again. Like you
Yeah.
are it. It is you.
True.
Do you drink like tap water?
Yeah, I do.
So you're drinking Lake Erie.
Yeah.
You're like 70% Lake Erie right now. And so if I take you to the lake and I have you put your hand in it, you can feel that.
Yeah.
It's like, I am you, you are me. So that's one way to kind of start people breaking down that boundary between human and nature. Again, in a way that respects whatever their personal belief systems are.
Yeah.
I forgot your question though. Like, take me back to what you originally asked.
I was asking more like also about how most people see ourselves as either saviors or destroyers.
Saviors, yeah, okay. And so the savior mentality often goes like when you see a place and you see it through like a deficit lens, like, oh, look at this place, it's so, say, dirty and trashy, or look at all those weeds that are growing there.
Yeah. let's take them out.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you go and look at them more closely, you often discover that they're doing something really important for that place.
Yeah.
So Japanese knotweed is one of my favorite examples because people hate it, but it's this incredible plant that produces these beautiful flowers that the pollinators go crazy for. It blooms
Yeah.
really late, so it's still blooming right now, and there's bees all over it.
Yeah.
It also pulls like toxins out of the soil, so you find it in places where humans have disturbed things.
Okay.
And there's like all this research on using knotweed for Lyme disease.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
That's
one
pretty
of the
incredible. And
things,
it's a weed?
it's a weed, you know, it
Uh-huh.
came here from another place, like many of us. I came here, you know, my
Yeah.
ancestors came here from another
Yeah, me
place.
too.
People are really interested in using knotweed honey produced by bees
Oh, wow.
for treating Lyme disease. So when you look at something and you say like trashy weeds, often you're not taking the time to get to know the place. And we're the
Yeah.
same with people. Like there are parts of Cleveland that students don't go to.
Yeah.
Like, that place is dangerous. It's bad. There tends to be a racial element to this. It tends
Yeah.
to be predominantly Black neighborhoods,
Yeah.
like East Cleveland. So I often take my students to East Cleveland so that they can start to see both the kind of human divisions as well
Yeah.
as the human nature division. So the savior mentality usually comes from not knowing a community, whether it's a
Yeah.
human or a non-human community. When you start to form relationships, either by knowing the plants or knowing the people, then it sort of shifts your mindset.
Yeah. So like approaching it with wanting to know more instead of just immediate judgments.
Exactly.
Just like our default a little bit sometimes.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And a lot of the things that we've done as a culture really promote that. So the way we landscape the campus, for example, all these lawns.
Yeah.
You know, lawns are cool. Like you need lawns if you want to like play frisbee.
Yeah.
I'm not against lawns, but they definitely create spaces that are very human oriented and not that great for other things.
Yeah.
So I could talk about that forever. You also mentioned
Like destroyers.
yeah, this feeling that we are nothing but harmful for the earth.
Yeah.
And I encounter that as well too. Like I have students who don't want to sit on the grass because they're like,
Oh,
I don't want to
wow.
hurt the grass. I'm like,
Oh,
no,
wow.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Sit on the grass. So sometimes students worry that if you start to attend to things, then you'll do them harm. And if you think about, I don't know what your COVID was like, but there was a part of the Cuyahoga Valley National Park that I always went to. There was never anyone there.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, like,
oh yeah.
so you see the way that more people, you know, tend to kind of wear a place down. So this trail that you love, everybody is running that trail.
It's
It's
not
going to
what
get
it
worn
was.
down. So
Yeah.
that's like an interesting thing we have to grapple with as human beings. But coming back into connection with nature is good for nature. I genuinely believe that, especially if you do it in that more respectful way.
Yeah. It's like just being part of it.
Yeah, trying to be part of it. I think, and as a social scientist, I feel sometimes a little bit awkward about sharing this really openly, but I think that the plants and the trees and the animals, they want us to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
That it's good for them when we notice this giant oak tree that we're like, the oak tree is like, yes, thank you. I am here. I did give you that acorn.
Yeah. Like on kind of a more like abstract scale, I like to think about the fact that nothing on earth is created nor destroyed. So really we are all the same, you know?
Yeah.
Like the trees, the people, everyone, like we come from
We come
the
from the
same things.
stardust. Yeah, we literally
exactly.
come from the same materials.
Yeah.
I think that can be very helpful to remember.
Oh yes. So I saw in your article about indigenous knowledge and things.
Yeah.
How you said looking and listening can help us redevelop intuition.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of powerful. Can you like tell me a little bit about that?
Well, so talking about indigeneity is always really complicated.
Yeah.
Because all of us come from some kind of indigenous tradition. So my people are from Scotland originally. They used to be really closely connected to the land, but then they were ripped away from that land by the British. Many of them came here and then displaced indigenous people who were living on this part of the planet.
Yeah.
So indigenous is like a word that only certain people get to use about themselves for important reasons. But I think it's also really helpful to remind ourselves that we have those indigenous roots. We all have a connection to the earth.
To the earth, yeah.
It's just maybe more distant.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far back in your family you would have to go to find that connection
Yeah.
to the earth. It could be farming. It could be, it could be anything.
Uh-huh.
So indigeneity, that's, it's a tricky word.
Yeah.
But the idea is that we all have that intimate connection to the earth, and it's in kind of intuitive sense. And especially those of us trained as scientists, we've been taught to completely reject intuition. Like, intuition is bad because it's bad for science. Like, it's subjective. We need to be objective.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to recognize other ways of understanding the planet, other ways of knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And intuition is one of those. So you can be both a scientist and you can also use your intuition.
Yeah.
You just have to do them slightly differently.
Uh-huh.
I think we've gotten ourselves as a culture into real trouble by saying only the Western scientific method is correct and is the way of understanding the earth. I think that is because of those philosophical traditions that I mentioned at the beginning, because of the people who developed those traditions, who deliberately erased other ways of understanding. I think we've gotten ourselves into real trouble. So reawakening intuition, reawakening love, which again is like a scary word, but I do believe that we all love this planet. Yeah. Reawakening that sense. I think it can be very helpful.
Yeah. If you need any other information, I have linked some articles in the bio and a little bit about Professor Fey Parrill. And I will see you next time here in the Vortex.